When Robert chased after his first love and went abroad, I begged him not to leave, but he didn't even look back. A year later, when I got married, Robert flew back seeing my wedding ring. The usually arrogant young master of the Tudor family broke down. He forced a smile and said, "Luna, are you going to take it off yourself or should I do it for you?" His voice was trembling. "I can buy you a ring, throw this one away, please." I didn't invite many people to my wedding. Only about a dozen relatives and friends had a meal together. My husband doted on me. He didn't let me get tired throughout the process. He entertained the guests himself, and let me chat with my best friend. My best friend Casey was quite emotional when she saw me getting married. "I thought you would wait for Robert for the rest of your life." I lowered my head and smiled. "I thought so too." She said, "Does Robert know you're getting married?" I shook my head, "No. And there's no need for him to know." She paused. "He was in such a hurry. Maybe it was because his first love had run away again, just like back then, when she got angry with Robert and ran to the United States. Robert booked a plane ticket right in front of me and was going to chase after her. At that time, I was having my period. I felt cold even wrapped in a quilt. Shaking, I sat in front of him and watched his slender fingers tap the phone without hesitation, booking a flight for that night. I gritted my teeth and still tried to persuade him to stay. "Robert, can't you stay?" Robert looked at me with his bright, deep-set eyes and smiled casually. "You stay at home obediently. I'll buy you a gift when I come back." He lifted my chin, gently pecked my lips, and tucked the quilt around me. "Do you want a necklace or a bracelet?" I didn't say anything. Robert liked to get jewelry as gifts. He had given me a lot, but not a single ring. He didn't give Emily many gifts, but every time it was a ring. I took a deep breath, looking at his thin and handsome face, his fair skin, and still tried to keep him. "Can't you really not go?" The smile on Robert's lips faded as I patted my head. "You know what our relationship is." I froze in place, speechless. I took the initiative to pursue Robert. He had only one condition: that our relationship couldn't be made public, especially in front of Emily. To put it bluntly, I was just a backup. I had no right to stop him even though we were living together and he had taken me to family gatherings. Seeing that I didn't say anything more, Robert smiled and kissed my forehead. "Be good. I'll bring you a gift when I come back." I lowered my head. "When will you be back?" He stood up and leisurely buttoned his shirt. "A few days." At that time, he probably didn't expect that this time his first love wasn't going abroad to relax, but to study abroad, so he ended up staying there for a year. I watched Robert stall and straight back as he left and sighed, seemingly sensing my unhappiness. Robert turned around. "Before I go abroad, think about if there's anything I can do for you. I'll do my best to meet your request." I looked at his face and thought for a while. "Can you help me find someone?" "His name is William. He's a war correspondent." Robert's face darkened. "What's your relationship with him?" "I won't help if you don't make it clear." I pursed my lips. "He's my brother from my aunt's family." Robert's expression relaxed a bit, and he nodded. "Wait for my news." He turned and left. I watched his back disappear and took out a photo from my wallet. In the photo was a thin and handsome man, very similar to Robert. I stroked the photo. Robert was really forgetful. I had told him that I grew up in an orphanage. How could I have an aunt? I had also told him that there was an older brother in the orphanage who had always taken care of me, and we grew up together, but he just forgot after hearing it. He also never suspected why I liked looking at his face so much. I only loved his face. Robert really loved Emily, even though Emily's attitude had been wavering over the years and she just didn't want to settle down. He still loved her wholeheartedly, and I really loved Robert's face, the face that resembled William's. I had always been grateful to Robert. He saved me from a difficult situation when I met him. I had lost contact with William for 3 years. Many people said William was no longer alive. I was like a walking corpse, lifeless until I saw Robert, a junior 1 year younger than me. When I saw his face, which was so similar to William's, I cried. I tried every way to get close to Robert and treated him unconditionally well. Everyone knew that I was Robert's shadow, responsible for carrying his bags, fetching his coat, buying things, passing messages when he quarreled with Emily, and helping him back when he was drunk. Maybe I was so good to him that he could no longer ignore me. So, on a night when he had a fight with Emily and was drunk, he pulled me into his arms. Like me, I looked at his thin and handsome face and nodded. From that day on, I became Robert's secret girlfriend. If a backup can be considered a girlfriend, this kindness lasted for several years. Robert and Emily didn't end up together, but the two of us ended up living together. Sometimes Robert would hold me and sigh, "Luna, you're the best woman to me. You don't even like my money." I smiled. "I won't refuse if you want to give it to me. But you don't spend it." Robert stared at me with his bright, phoenix-like eyes. "You don't spend my money. Don't wear the jewelry I buy, and don't force me to make our relationship public," he said. "Sometimes I even think you're using me as a backup too." I gently scratched his nose and smiled, burying my head in his arms. Whether I was a backup or not didn't matter. People aren't heartless. We had already spent 6 years together. These 6 years were very important to me, but Robert didn't think so. Robert still loved Emily so much. If Emily called Robert late at night when she was drunk, Robert would immediately put on his clothes and go pick her up. In the past, Robert would leave as soon as he decided to, without ever explaining to me, but later he started to explain, with a hint of guilt on his face. I thought this meant I was starting to be different in his heart. But I was wrong. He still chased after Emily and went abroad, not giving me any chance to persuade him to stay. He was gone for a whole year. In fact, Robert came back once. During that time he was drunk and asked me to pick him up when I arrived. He was sitting in a nightclub booth, video chatting with Emily. Seeing me come in, he waved at me. "Luna, come here." He showed me to Emily. "Let me introduce you. This is my girlfriend of 6 years, Luna." Emily still had an indifferent expression, but her eyes swept over me and lingered on my face for a few seconds. Then she smiled. "Robert, have you changed your heart?" Robert also smiled. "Yeah, why should I keep chasing after you when I have a gentle and virtuous wife?" Emily looked at Robert putting his arm around me and asked how long we had been together. 6 years. Emily hung up the video. The always proud Emily left without even saying goodbye. The hand with which Robert was holding me suddenly froze. That night, Robert was originally sleeping while holding me. He received a phone call in the middle when he came back. He kept kissing me and didn't sleep all night, just looking at me. By morning, his voice was hoarse. "Luna, it's over between us." I actually didn't sleep all night either. I had guessed it. I heard Robert answer that phone call. Emily casually asked him to break up with me, saying that as long as he did, she would get back together with him immediately. I knew I wasn't as important as Emily. I nodded, not wanting the scene to be too ugly. I turned around and wiped the corner of my eye. Robert hugged me from behind, so tightly that I could hardly breathe. He whispered in my ear, "There's news about your aunt's son. He's not dead, he just lost his memory and is abroad." My whole body froze. I turned around. "Can you bring him back for me?" Robert kissed my lips for the last time. "I can. This is what I owe you." On the same day, he took a plane to be with Emily, and I met William a few days later. The best doctors in the best hospital in the country treated him. Soon, he regained his memory and remembered me. William got injured and lost his memory while rescuing a child in a bomb-hit area. As soon as he woke up, he hugged me. His gentle voice echoed in my ear. "I'm sorry for leaving you alone for these 10 years you've suffered." My tears welled up immediately. My empty heart was quietly filled at this moment. William and I had missed 10 years and didn't want to waste another 10 years. We got engaged soon. William also asked me if I had fallen in love with someone else in these 10 years. He told me not to make a hasty decision, that I might regret. The face of Robert vaguely flashed through my mind, but then it disappeared in a flash. I shook my head and smiled, saying that I stroked the scar on William's body that he got while saving the child in the war zone. I repeated, "No. Actually, before William asked me, I had dreamed of Robert several times in the dreams." Robert looked at me with a sneer, telling me not to be self-indulgent. My heart still felt sour, but as time passed, I never dreamed of Robert again. The 6 years seemed to have faded away with the wind. My best friend Casey sometimes asked me if I ever thought of Robert. I was silent for a few seconds and then shook my head. "I hope he and Emily can be happy together," I said. "It's better if we forget each other." At least I was seriously trying to forget him. But a few days later, when William and I were having a meal, we met one of Robert's classmates. He came up to us from afar to say hello. "You guy, why didn't you call me when you came back to the country?" After walking a few steps, he stopped. Looking shocked, William and Robert looked alike, but there was a scar between William's eyebrows from the war zone. Their temperaments were completely different. William didn't have Robert's lazy and dissipated air, but was more tough and composed. The classmate looked at William, then at me in disbelief. Luna, this he thought for a while, did you cheat on Robert? I shook my head. We broke up. The classmate was even more surprised, but Robert said you were still waiting for him obediently. I interrupted him. This is my fiancé, we're getting married soon. He was stunned. Looking at the hands that William and I were holding tightly, he turned around and left in a hurry, making a phone call as he walked. I looked up to explain to William. But as soon as I opened my mouth, William smiled. It's all in the past, why talk about it? He helped me straighten my hair. It's not fair to expect you to wait for me for 10 years just because I disappeared. My eyes welled up with tears and suddenly I felt extremely wronged. In the 3 years when I couldn't find William at first, I held my phone every day waiting for a call. I kept my phone on 24 hours a day every time a strange call rang. I would startle in the first year. I hoped to receive a call telling me that William was just injured and would come back soon in the second year. I hoped someone would tell me that William was still alive in the third year. I started to be afraid of answering the phone, but still had to. When Robert appeared, I was officially diagnosed with severe anxiety and panic disorder. His face was the last straw that kept me alive when I was being Robert's backup. I wasn't without grievances, but I really couldn't leave that face. Only by looking at him could I find the strength to live. So I don't know if I loved Robert. But I was grateful to him. I was so grateful that even when everyone laughed at me for being a backup, I still endured it in these 6 years. In my eyes, Robert was a good person, a person who saved me from despair. I thought I would also leave a good impression on him. At least he would think I was sensible, but I never expected that he would grit his teeth and call me a liar. Robert called me late at night. Not wanting to wake William, I thought he wanted to pick up the many things he had left at my place, but as soon as I answered the phone he said viciously, as if he wanted to crush me, gritting his back teeth and spitting out 2 words, liar. His voice was hoarse and low. Luna, you're a liar. You said he was your aunt's son. You lied to me. He no longer had that lazy and dissipated look. He was suppressing his anger. And there was even a hint of grievance in his voice. A grievance like that of a child. I lowered my head and sighed. I'm sorry. This was how I apologized to him. There were many reasons. For example, don't stare at him all the time in front of Emily, or it would make Emily unhappy. Don't try to hold his hand in front of Emily's classmates. Don't call him randomly when he's having a meal with Emily. Every time I would apologize, looking at that face and obediently saying sorry at first, Robert would hesitantly touch my head, like touching a child. Just correct it next time. Later, he would look at me with a smile, resting his chin on his hand. You're so obedient when you apologize. After that he no longer set so many rules for me, but my instinct to apologize remained. And I blurted it out immediately, I'm sorry. Robert paused, still gritting his teeth. An apology won't work this time, Luna. I'm really angry. I should have let your lover stay in the war zone for the rest of his life. Why did I go through so much trouble to put a cuckold on myself? My face turned cold, but he didn't notice and kept asking me, has he touched you? Luna, talk. Has he touched you? I interrupted his impatient voice. Robert, don't talk about him like that. He's very important to me. There was suddenly no sound from the other side. After a while, I heard the sound of something breaking. Robert gritted his teeth and said with a forced laugh, word by word, Luna, you've never said I was important to you. He said, remember. I haven't allowed you to leave, so you're still mine. That I'm not yours, I corrected him. Frowning. We had nothing to do with each other since you went to the US to find Emily. Robert was silent for a moment, then gently asked, so you're taking revenge on me, right? He seemed to become more certain. You're with him to make me angry. Aren't you? What if I give you a chance to regret? I frowned even more. Robert, stop making trouble. You and Emily are finally together. Just live a good life. Robert fell silent. His breathing was low and rapid. After a while, he hung up the phone without saying anything, listening to the dial tone. I sighed. Robert still hadn't changed. As soon as Emily was mentioned, his rationality would fly out of the window. In the past, when he was drunk, he would call me in the middle of the night to pick him up. I would rush out in my pajamas, wrapped in a coat, and pick up the drunk him at the bar entrance in the cold weather. My hands were so frozen that they went stiff. But he refused to go back. His friend was helpless and said sorry to me, and sent a video call to Emily. I'll let Emily see what a mess you are. Suddenly, Robert stood up straight, looking as sober as if he hadn't drunk at all, and opened the car door and got in by himself. His friend and I stood outside the car, looking at each other in dismay. There was nothing but embarrassment and sympathy in his friend's eyes. I really had no other way. Only Emily can make him behave. I shook my head. It's okay. I don't mind. That day, I made hangover soup for Robert and took care of him all night without sleeping, and he held me, calling Emily's name all night. A voice in my heart kept asking me, Luna, do you really not mind? Then why are your hands and feet so cold? I sighed and forced myself to break away from the memories. I looked at the bedroom there with the man I loved the most. What happened in the past didn't matter. The key was that now, I didn't care anymore. William and I started preparing for the wedding. I went to try on my wedding dress and missed several calls from Robert, but my phone kept vibrating. They were all WeChat messages from Robert. He wouldn't send this many messages in a month before. Luna, I haven't allowed you to leave yet. Luna, you'll regret it. What are you doing? Reply, you never took this long to reply before. Annoyed by the constant messages, I grabbed my phone in the fitting room and quickly replied to him, I'm trying on my wedding dress. Stop sending messages. The phone was silent for a short while. Then it started vibrating like crazy, non-stop for a second, as if the person on the other side had gone mad. I had no choice but to pick up the phone. Robert, if you keep acting like this, we can't even be friends. But he ignored me and just kept asking me in a rush, what's so good about him? Luna, getting married and being in love are two different things. He took a deep breath. Luna, be obedient. Have your parents agreed to your marriage? How about I go back and talk to them? I calmly interrupted him. Robert, stop making trouble. The other side fell silent. I said quietly, Robert, I'm really getting married. He and I grew up together. We know each other well and are in love. Robert was about to say something, but I interrupted him again. Emily will be unhappy if you do this. He didn't speak, but his breathing became uneven. I sighed. I told you, I grew up in an orphanage. I don't have parents. Why can't you remember this? After that, I hung up. Robert didn't call back. William had been waiting patiently outside the fitting room, not asking why it took so long when I came out. He hugged me tightly and didn't want to let go for a long time. Luna, thank you for loving me. I hugged him back. Thank you too. We both grew up in an orphanage. We remembered every bit of kindness shown to us and were extremely grateful. Unlike Robert, the young master who got everything he wanted, it was inevitable that he would go crazy when his always obedient ex-girlfriend suddenly moved on and was about to get married. But I believed that time would heal everything eventually. He would let go of his resentment and look forward, but I overestimated Robert's ability to accept things. A few days later, with my wedding approaching and me needing to get beauty sleep every night, Robert called me late at night again. He seemed to be drunk. Luna, you're something else. I was already extremely impatient and was considering blocking him. He said, word by word, his voice hoarse and dejected. Back then, why didn't I think of taking a look at the photo? If I had just taken one look, I would have known something was wrong. He was both aggrieved and angry. But I didn't even glance at it. I even brought him back from the war zone, got him treated, and sent him to you. How come I only thought of looking at the photo now? I've put a cuckold on myself. Robert was so angry that his voice was trembling. He lowered his voice, and it was obvious that he was trying hard to control his emotions, but still couldn't stop his voice from shaking. Luna, having fulfilled my obsession. Was I just a substitute for you? I fell silent. So did he. After a while, he gritted his teeth and shouted, say something, why aren't you talking? But then I suddenly thought of what happened back then when Emily had other suitors. Robert posted a photo of my back on his WeChat moments. I was wearing the latest luxury brand dress of the season that Emily had wanted. It was the only time I wore the clothes Robert gave me. Usually, I wouldn't even remove the tags and would just put them in the closet, but that day, Robert pestered me to put on that dress and took a photo of me. It was the first time he posted me on his moments. Many people liked it, and quite a few people asked in the comments who I was. Robert put his arm around me and showed me, saying casually, honey, they're all asking about you. When Robert was in a good mood, he would call me honey. He whirled my hair around his fingers. I told them you're my honey. My buddies are so jealous. I smiled. But my eyes caught a new comment from Emily. I want to go to a music festival. Wanna go? After a while, Robert glanced at his phone, and his hand paused. He turned the phone face down, and then nonchalantly took out his credit card. Go buy a few bags. Then he stood up, put on his coat, and was about to leave. Looking at his figure walking out, I somehow blurted out. Robert, don't go out. Okay? Robert held the doorknob, hesitated for a moment, and turned around and smiled at me. Feeling lonely? And go shopping for a while longer. Buy a few more outfits and some jewelry. He turned to close the door. And just as the door was closing, he suddenly added, I'll be back soon, honey. I watched the door slowly close, lowered my head, not knowing what to feel at that time. We had already gone from college to working. Robert had changed from calling me baby to honey. Somewhere in my heart, I still felt differently about him. I stared at the credit card on the coffee table for a long time, then put it in the drawer and never touched it again. Nor did I have any more expectations. A few days later, Robert came back the WeChat Moments post with me and it had been deleted at some point. A friend called him and asked why he deleted the photo of his girlfriend. He said casually, Oh, it was just a girl I saw on the street. I thought she was pretty, so I took a photo. I deleted it in case you guys got the wrong idea. At that time, I was in his arms, motionless. Being obedient and gentle, he hung up the phone and kissed my ear. Honey, you're so good. After thinking for a while, he still posted my photo on WeChat Moments, but set it to only be visible to himself. Robert stroked my hair. My honey is so beautiful. I don't want others to see. I looked at his face, smiled, and said nothing. My heart was calm, just like the credit card sealed in the drawer back then. I never complained once. It was like drinking water, only I knew whether it was cold or warm. But now Robert was full of unwillingness. Luna, say something. Was I a substitute or not? I sighed, deciding to lay everything out. What about me, Robert? What was I in these 6 years? Robert was stunned. I continued on my own. For 6 years, I never complained in front of you, Robert. It's only been a few days for you, and you can't take it? Robert's breathing sounded ragged. I sighed again and hung up the phone, blocking Robert's WeChat and phone number, completely bidding farewell to those 6 years. William and I got our marriage license and held the wedding in one go. I carefully decorated, chose my wedding dress and gave myself a dreamlike wedding. From then on, I was no longer alone. I had my own home and family. But at the wedding, my best friend Casey told me that Robert had booked a ticket overnight and was rushing back like crazy. I didn't really believe it. After all, he and Emily had just managed to be together. He wouldn't be so impulsive as to leave Emily and come back to the country, but I never expected that he would really show up. The Robert in my memory was tall, handsome, and exuded an air of nobility, but the current Robert had a deathly pale face, looked haggard, and was holding a jewelry box in his hand, quietly looking at William and me. It seemed that he was looking more at William than at me. He gave me quite a shock. Robert looked at William, then at me, and motioned me over with a gesture of his finger. Just then, William went to entertain his colleagues. Afraid that Robert would cause trouble, I ran over to him and pleaded with him softly. Please don't cause any trouble. This wedding is extremely important to me. I don't want anything to go wrong. Robert's face darkened. Even though I was pleading with him, it seemed to have angered him instead. He glanced at William in the distance. Luna, between the two of us, who looks like the other? I was taken aback, not quite understanding what he meant. Robert asked again, honey, between him and me, who looks more like a substitute? He called me honey, so familiarly as if we were still together. But he used to only call me honey when he was in a good mood, and his good moods were always related to Emily. I would rather he call me Luna. My face turned cold. Robert, I'm not your honey. I pointed at William. I'm his wife, with a marriage certificate to prove it. Robert stared at me without saying a word, his face ashen. I started to regret speaking like that. He was from a wealthy family. Being retorted like this, there was no guarantee that he wouldn't do something impulsive. I froze in place, wondering how to get this troublemaker out of here when I heard William calling me. I was filled with unease, but I didn't dare show it. My mind was full of Robert's cold expression and the uncertain fate of my wedding. William seemed not to notice anything. He put his arm around me and gently soothed my uneasiness. "Don't run around. I might not be able to find you later." He then patted my shoulder. "Don't be afraid. I'm here." I leaned against William's chest, listening to his steady heartbeat. My unease disappeared without a trace. I smiled and nodded. "Okay." William lowered his head and pecked my lips. I turned around and hugged him, kissing him back. As long as William was by my side, what did it matter if the wedding was smooth or not? With William beside me, I was not afraid of anything. I kissed him passionately and deeply. When the kiss ended, I found that Robert was gone. There was no commotion as I had expected. "He left quietly." Casey said that Robert left in a hurry, as if fleeing from some fierce beast. Then a text message came to my phone from an unknown number. "You've never smiled at me like that." Casey was still gesturing beside me. "Robert seems to be really affected. I've never seen him so embarrassed. He even stumbled. What's wrong with him?" I shook my head, said nothing, and held William's hand tightly, not wanting to let go. We had depended on each other when we were young, and our hearts were connected when we were teenagers. Now we were finally together. What happened to others didn't matter. What mattered was that I was with the one I loved. When Robert left, he asked Casey to give me a ring. Casey sneered. "Now he knows to buy a ring. What was he doing before?" Casey really didn't like Robert much. She was always frustrated with my relationship with Robert. But there was nothing she could do. Robert was very generous to me, sending me necklaces, bracelets, earrings, and brooches without repeating the styles. But he never gave me a ring during a meal. Casey jokingly asked Robert when he would give me a ring. Robert made a phone call, and soon his driver brought me a jade necklace. Casey was so angry that her hands were shaking. I said, "A ring? Luna has been with you for so many years. Isn't she worth a ring?" Robert put his hand on the back of my chair, a body language that showed he was in control of me. He crossed his legs and said cynically, "She'll have one sooner or later. What are you in a hurry for?" He hooked my chin and promised me with a smile, "I'll give you a ring within 10 years. I lowered my head and smiled, not saying anything. Suddenly, I really missed William. William wouldn't make such a flippant promise to me after all. No matter how similar their faces were, if they weren't the same person, they were ultimately different. After that meal, I wanted to distance myself from Robert. I didn't answer his calls or reply to his WeChat messages. I changed the password of my door lock and stopped going to his place. But a few days later, Robert had us to Magic and sent me a video call. His face was pale and haggard. I suddenly thought of whether William had looked as haggard before he went missing in a war zone. I couldn't control myself. Despite Casey's disapproving look, I still went to see Robert. There were wine bottles all over the floor in Robert's house. I wondered how much he had drunk during the week I avoided him. I sighed, cleaned the house for him, cooked porridge, did the laundry, and peeled apples, taking care of him until he got better. Robert held my hand. "Don't avoid me. Luna, I'm not lying to you. I'll really buy you a ring within 10 years. He gestured. "A dime and as big as a pigeon egg." I smiled. "Then why not now?" Robert was silent. After a while, he said lightly, "I have an obsession to solve now." He pulled me into his arms and we lay down together. Listening to his rapid heartbeat, he said, "Luna, I'm not lying to you. Wait for me for 10 years. I looked at his face and didn't say anything. Robert hugged me even tighter, as if afraid I would run away. "So it's a deal, 10 years. I leaned my face against his strong chest, listening to his heartbeat. The heartbeat doesn't lie. On the wedding night 10 years later, William and I didn't sleep much. Early the next morning, while William was still asleep, I blushed and went downstairs to throw away the used condoms. As soon as I went downstairs, I saw Robert. He was standing next to his Ferrari. His chin was covered with blue stubble. His eyes were bloodshot, and there were cigarette butts all over the ground at his feet. I didn't know how many cigarettes he had smoked. He glanced at the transparent garbage bag in my hand and turned his face away to avoid looking at it. His voice was hoarse beyond recognition. "Luna, I waited all night, watching you turn off the lights." All his former pride was gone. His eyes dodged the garbage bag, but couldn't avoid the red mark on my neck. The proud young master of the Tudor family, like someone who had lost their most precious treasure, stared at my neck, his eyes turning red. He said hoarsely and despairingly, "Luna, I'm sick, I feel terrible." In the past, when he said this, I would immediately put aside everything to take care of him, cook for him, peel apples, give him medicine, and take his temperature, but now, all I could say was, "Buy some medicine." Robert staggered a bit, and his eyes became even redder. Robert came from a wealthy family, fearing that he would be kidnapped. His family sent him to learn martial arts. Since he was a child, he had gone through hardships and injuries. He was most proud of the fact that, as the only son of a wealthy family, he was never pampered, but now, a tear rolled down his face and he didn't even wipe it. He just looked at me. "Luna, actually, when I saw you smiling at William, I thought a lot. I can treat you like he does too. Even if I'm a substitute, can a substitute be promoted? Luna, I can't accept you being like this with someone else." I was a bit speechless and shook my right hand. There was a wedding ring on my finger. The diamond wasn't big, but I had designed and customized it carefully. Robert's face turned even paler. "Luna, take it off. Will you do it yourself or should I help you?" He pleaded with me hoarsely. "I can buy you any ring you want, as big as you like. Throw this one away, please." I shook my head. "I can't, Robert. This is my wedding ring." I looked down at the ring. "William bought it for me, and I love it very much." Robert choked up. "Don't say that, Luna, it hurts." "It really hurts," I sighed. I didn't hold any grudges against Robert after all. It was his face that helped me get through the toughest times. I also hoped that Robert could let go of the past and move forward. I was trying to think of words to persuade him, but when I looked up, I saw a figure that surprised me. Emily had come. The always delicate and beautiful woman had an extremely poor complexion. She looked at me in disbelief, then at Robert. When others told me, I didn't believe it. "You broke up with me in the middle of the night, booked a ticket and came back to the country, all for her?" She looked at the wedding ring on my hand, as if she had been humiliated. "She's so ordinary looking and already married. You broke up with me for her." Emily seemed very angry. In the past, a single angry word from Emily could make Robert cross half the globe to chase after her, but now, he didn't even turn his head. He just ignored her and said to me, "Luna, I really can't live without you. I really can't. I can't sleep. I haven't slept much for several days." He looked haggard. "Come back. Luna honey, I'll change. I'll change everything. I won't even look at another woman. That substitute can become the real one. People can get divorced. Please." I opened my mouth, too shocked to speak for a moment. I had never seen Robert like this. Never. The proud young master of the Tudor family, even during those years of being on and off with Emily, had never pleaded with her like this. Emily was also stunned. Her face turned red and then pale. Finally, she threw out a sentence. "Don't regret it. I won't give you a second chance," and then turned around and ran away crying. Robert didn't even glance back. I reminded him, "Emily has really left." But Robert reached out to pull me. "I never planned to be with her long term. She was just an obsession. When it comes to getting married, there's no one else in my mind but you, Robert." I interrupted him, rubbing my temples, worried that William would wake up and not find me. I decided to be straightforward. "Actually, I didn't always see you as a substitute. I did have feelings for you at times. How could I not? 6 years of being close, of physical intimacy. How could I not develop feelings?" Robert's eyes lit up a bit. I sighed. "But you pushed me away with your own hands, Robert. Don't you remember? Every time I was about to give in to my feelings, you chose Emily. You pushed me away. You constantly reminded me that William would never treat me like that, and that you could never replace William." The light in Robert's eyes dimmed. He still struggled to say, "I can change. Luna, I can change." I shook my head and interrupted him. "Robert, you don't love me. You just can't accept that someone doesn't love you. It was Emily before, and now it's me." I pointed to my heart. "But I can't get entangled with you anymore. My heart is filled with my husband now. There's no room for you." The last bit of light in Robert's eyes suddenly went out. I didn't say anything more. I just walked around him and went home. When I reached the door of the building, I suddenly found William standing there quietly. I didn't know how long he had been awake. I panicked immediately. You heard everything. William reached out and hugged me. Don't panic. He patted my back. Robert called me and told me about you too. He asked me to give you to him. What did you say? I asked in surprise, looking up at him. I paid him back double the money he spent on bringing me back and treating me, and I sent him a wedding invitation by the way. Oh my God. I was speechless. So that's how Robert found out about our wedding hotel. William really knew how to hit where it hurt. I didn't know when Robert left. Nor did I have the time to care. I was busy preparing for the honeymoon with William on a sunny and breezy afternoon. William and I arrived at an island for our honeymoon. With the blue sky, white clouds, blue sea, golden sand, and a gentle breeze blowing, William and I comfortably closed our eyes and sun-bathed by the sea until evening, and returned to the wooden cabin by the sea. I had told Robert that I wanted to live in this kind of wooden cabin years ago, but we never had the time. Later, when William heard me mention it, he immediately booked a room and decided to bring me here for our honeymoon. I stood by the window of the wooden cabin, wanting to see the night sea, but then I noticed a familiar figure in front of the adjacent wooden cabin. Sitting on the beach, drinking beer. He was alone with empty bottles all around him. I pursed my lips, closed the window, and before I could draw the curtains, William came over and hugged me for a kiss. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Robert's solitary figure on the beach, constantly tilting his head back to drink, while I was carried to the bedroom by William. In the morning, when I got up to drink water, I glanced out and was shocked to find that Robert was still on the beach, motionless. I was so startled that I immediately ran out and squatted down to check his breath. Fortunately, he was still breathing. I patted my chest in relief. Just as I was about to leave, Robert suddenly grabbed me and opened his eyes. Those once high-spirited eyes were now hazy with drunkenness, sad and helpless. Looking at me quietly in the morning sunlight, he pleaded with me hoarsely. Luna, can I hug you one more time? Just one hug. Just once. I shook my head, pulled my hand out, and stood up. I'm married, Robert. Robert was extremely drunk, half crying and half laughing. His voice was mixed with the sound of the rising tide. But I just can't let you go. Luna, it's not about not getting what you want. It's about loving without realizing it. Luna. Honey, give me another chance. Okay. I'll never not cherish you again in my life. I stopped in my tracks and then walked back. This constant entanglement wasn't going to solve anything. It was better to make him give up completely. My walking back seemed to give Robert hope, and he looked at me expectantly. I lowered my head, took out my phone, and showed him a photo in silence. It was a photo of a pregnancy test stick with 2 lines. I'm pregnant. Robert was stunned. After a few seconds, he pushed the phone away forcefully, as if pushing away a venomous snake, not wanting to look at it anymore. He couldn't say a word. I stood up, looked down at him, and said the words he had said when we broke up, returning them to him exactly. It's over between us. After that, I walked back to the wooden cabin. Behind me, there was complete silence. Later, I completely forgot about Robert. William and I led a lively life and almost forgot about those past events. 10 months later, I gave birth to a daughter at the baby's 100-day celebration. William was showing our daughter around, beaming from ear to ear. I sat aside, watching William and our daughter, feeling warm inside. A waiter in the banquet hall ran over and presented a beautiful gift box. Hello, a gentleman just asked me to give this to you. I thought it might be a 100-day gift from one of William's friends, so I thanked him and took it. Then opened it to have a look. There were 2 things inside. One was a golden baby lock, the other was a huge pigeon egg-sized ring. The ring looked very familiar. Casey came over and took a look, exclaiming, "Isn't this the ring Robert gave you when you got married? He asked me to give it to you, and when you refused, I gave it back to him." I was stunned, not knowing what to say. After a while, I came to my senses, picked up the gift box, and ran out, but I was a step too late. I saw Robert's tall and slender back getting into his familiar sports car. The engine roared, and he drove away. Casey followed me out inside. If he had been like this earlier, you two might not have. I shook my head and smiled. What are you thinking? There aren't so many what ifs. Once you miss something, it's missed. There are no what-ifs and no turning back. I returned to the banquet hall, looking at my husband and daughter, and felt even more cherished. William came over and hugged me, asking, "Is there something on my face? Why do you keep looking at me?" I shook my head and leaned into his arms. "I'm just glad that I didn't miss you. I didn't miss my true happiness."